originally, being a self-storage guy, the start was boat and RV and indoor climate control and maybe some indoor boat and RV storage. But it kind of morphed. I had, the underwriting started with, kind of splitting the space, but then we really came down to, we wanted the space to be dedicated to that and have the storage stuff in the back, that we're developing.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Andrew Leedom is a husband and father to 4 kids. He transitioned from his structural engineering W-2 to invest in commercial real estate, focusing specifically on self-storage. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Sam. I'm glad to be here.
Hey, man, pleasure's mine. There's 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. 90 seconds or less. Where did you start? Where are you now? How did you get there?
Well, where I started, I studied to be a structural engineer and did that for 12 years and transitioned to the commercial space about a year and a half ago, and currently investing in self-storage and working with a group doing multifamily, self-storage, some hotel conversion stuff, but I'm focused on the self-storage part of that.
Interesting. So you were a structural engineer for 12 years.
Yes.
What were you doing as a structural engineer?
I got to see a little bit of everything. Started my career off in the inspection world, doing some bridge inspections, and transitioned to building design and then to waterfront design. So designing bridges, designing piers and waterfront structures, doing some work for the shipyard, Port of Virginia. Doing some, my latest job, I got to do some underwater inspecting, which was a lot less glamorous than it sounds.
Right. I mean, you're like decked out in scuba gear doing water inspections. Oh my word.
Yes.
That's wild when you look at the difficulties of the projects you were designing and building and inspecting, and then compare it to self-storage. Do you feel like you now it's much easier, or is it just different?
It's different, but one thing that led me to pursue self-storage when I was determining kind of between the various asset classes was it's not an easy business, but it's a simple business. So the simplicity was very appealing, both the structure as well as the business. I mean, the structure, for drive-up units, you've got a concrete slab and steel building and not a lot of moving parts. So I appreciate that.
I bet you do. Yeah. I would think from a construction perspective, you're like, okay, this is really, really easy compared to, say, a bridge over an enormous river.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is really cool. So you made a point there where you said some of the effect of, when you were, assessing the various asset classes, trying to figure out which one maybe you wanted to pursue. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, it was really, I started off my investing career, back in 2015 in the residential multifamily, a few duplexes, triplex, and, through the years, saw that real estate really is, there's nothing like it. It was doing, what I thought it would and growing, and, but the time it was going to take was going to be a lot longer than I like. And so that was kind of what got me set on the commercial space. And I started just as a passive investor in some multifamily syndications, and then made the decision with my wife that we were going to make the commercial thing work. And so the start of that was just evaluating various asset classes, and really came down to 3. It was multifamily, mobile home parks, and self-storage. And so I just kind of broke those down. I really like all 3 of those asset classes. I think they've all got a lot going for them. Recession resistant. Multifamily is kind of the bread and butter. It's, everything's built on that. But when I was looking at where I was with my W-2 and just trying to, figure out something that I could build and get my foot in while working a full-time job, I thought the multifamily space, just with all the institutional money and, how hot the space was going to be a lot more difficult than the other ones. And same thing with mobile home park, kind of what led me, I really like that asset class. It really serves, that affordable income, and especially when you can own the ground and lease the space. But really in that space, similarly, they're building and developing fewer and fewer, and it's, most municipalities aren't allowing them. And so, I just saw the competition growing and growing in that space as well. And so self-storage was kind of where I landed, both what I mentioned earlier, just with the simplicity of the business model and the ability to really set up a business to run remotely. So you're not as stuck in, the location. And with the self-storage, it's still several years behind multifamily in that the market is consolidating rather quickly. It's definitely been the buzzword the past probably 4 to 5 years, and is a hot market, but there's still a lot of potential right now. Currently the market it's still over 50% mom and pop. And so there's that opportunity to have direct to owner contact conversations and really, pick up, opportunities direct from those mom and pop owners. And so that's kind of where I felt like I could get my foot in the door and, focus more on the secondary, tertiary markets and get started.
Got it. That's really cool. Tell me, at what point in time did you know you could transition from your W-2, and what steps maybe would you recommend to somebody else that's thinking about that?
Yeah. I mean, the W-2 transition was actually a mix. I closed on my first 2 properties last year, and both of them were from mom and pop operators, and really kind of run into the ground. Very low occupancy, needed a lot of capital improvements. So I knew purchasing those, it was going to take a while before the cash flow caught up to where I would be able to step away from my W-2 job.
Right.
And so the plan was just to run them until we hit that break even point and be able to step away and, try to scale. But, fortunately, the group, I mentioned earlier, Community Investment Group, who I had invested in as a passive investor, and they're local to me, and, I've really grown to be friends with a lot of the guys in that group, and, they knew what I was doing, and I had kept them up to date. And so once I got to that point, they offered me a position with their team and just said, well, why don't you just come and join us and start our self-storage division, so you don't have to wait until your cash flow catches up to where you need it to be, so you can take the jump and start doing this stuff full time.
That's cool. So so you're still a W-2, or did you go in as a partner, or how did you arrange that?
Yeah, it's right now I'm a 1099, but also have some partnership on the deals. Hi, little girl. I am talking about self-storage. Can I come see you after I'm done? All right. Bye-bye.
Andrew, I think we might leave that in. That's super cute. And 2, it's just the reality of, what it takes to business, right? I mean,
that's right.
Stuff from home. There's kids in the background. There is transition. There's just everyday life. So that's really cool. I love that. Fantastic.
That's right.
So you went to work with them, 1099. You said, hey, we're going to start taking down properties. Talk to me, like what opportunities are you seeing right now in the market? I mean, self-storage, like you said, it's a hot asset class. How are you guys finding opportunity?
Yeah, I've, really the tough, the market right now, listed properties are just going for, insane values and cap rates. And the, a few of the properties I've looked at recently are just these buildings, whether they're conversions or new development, that go up. And with where the market is, the developers are basically just listing these empty buildings and selling them for year 3, year 4 pro forma numbers.
Right.
And it's, so, I mean, when you're competing with that, it really takes, creating deals, and either with trying to make those connections with owners directly. We're still gearing up our acquisitions team and trying to accelerate that, build that out to focus, just because we've been trying to focus on the projects we've already got in house. So, one of them that we're working on now is, the conversion of about a 60,000 square foot warehouse to indoor vehicle storage, and, the back 5 acres, doing a boat and RV, enclosed, covered, open storage, trying to make that work with that. So yeah, as far as the deals, we're, looking at some of those conversion type deals where you can get into markets where, the market isn't oversaturated. There's still some demand, and, trying to get in on that side where you're not purchasing an on market deal, but, you're purchasing something where you can buy below replacement value, do a conversion, and be up and running.
So how do you underwrite an indoor vehicle storage facility? I mean, it's not like you have all these, they're everywhere and you can go, oh, okay, cool. We'll plug in the things that are normal. It's like, that's a pretty nuanced thing. How did you come up with the idea? And then how in the world do you underwrite that?
Yeah, it's been a process. Originally, being a self-storage guy, the start was boat and RV and indoor climate control, and maybe some indoor boat and RV storage. But the guys that I work with over at Community Investment Group, particularly the founder, Brad Newton, it's been a lifelong dream of his to have an indoor, like an exotic car storage, facility, club, high end, a place that has, like the executive lounge and, just various amenities, detailing services attached to it. And so, it kind of morphed, I had, the underwriting started with, kind of splitting the space, but then we really came down to, we wanted the space to be dedicated to that and have the storage stuff in the back, that we're developing, boat, RV, some of the larger, enclosed units. And so, we just did some research just throughout the country of other similar models, and, just looking at various pricing models and looking at the demand. We got a feasibility study done, particularly more focused on the boat and RV side, but also, just, some of the other things in the area, and knowing that, there really is nothing like it in our area, and seeing the success of other similar models in other areas.
Got it. So what's the timeline on that project? What's the build out? What's the timeline? What's the cost? I mean, walk us through that side of the project. I'm really, really curious about this, because it's just not something we talk about a lot here on indoor vehicle storage, especially, exotic car storage, going to the higher end. You're serving a very niche market. So
yes,
your thoughts around that, and some of the parameters of the deal.
Yeah. So we're set to close in probably a little over a month. We anticipate a 3-month window for the finalization of architect design drawings, some of the building permit side of things. The land is already approved as far as the zoning for what we're proposing.
Mm.
And, then we've got a 9-month window for the construction and build out. Some aspects will be quicker than others. Some of the, once we can get the demo and the site work done, we'll be able to start on a lot of it. And, but things like the enclosed, the enclosed units in the back and the canopies, really that's primarily a lead time issue. Once the materials are delivered, those go up pretty quickly.
Right.
So we're anticipating, being able to start leasing, a lot of, especially the outdoor stuff sooner than later. And even within the warehouse, being able to have some of the space, where it's not, we've got it split into, some nicer places where are more like a showroom type feel. Mm-hmm. And then other spaces where it's more just, parking, glorified parking. And so once we open it up and clean it out, we'll be able to utilize some of that space. And then same thing with the back, once we have the site cleared and graded, then we'll be able to start some of the open parking while we're developing the canopy and enclosed, and then start leasing all that up, and anticipate having a pretty aggressive marketing plan to try to get a lot of this pre-leased and going as we're doing the construction.
I was going to ask that. How will you market this property for, especially in the higher end indoor vehicle storage? How do you reach out and find people that have those vehicles that want to be stored? I mean, again, it's a nuanced and niche market. So finding those clients, I would think, would be a pretty specialized art. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not really in those circles, but we've got, guys on the team that run in those circles that have those cars. And so, I mean, a lot of it will be, word of mouth, going to the dealerships and getting in touch with the folks that are selling the vehicles. As well, same thing with the RVs, going to the RV, dealers, and, making sure they know that, what we're doing and that we're here, and, and assist them in selling the vehicles if their clients know that customers know they've got a place to put them. I think that's, partnering with some of them, doing some online, obviously, online marketing and, Google ads, things like that, where folks can find it.
Gotcha. Man, that's great. I love that. If you were to rewind maybe 5 years and do one thing differently, what would it be?
I would say, to allow myself to dream bigger. One of those things, I mean, even just the idea of commercial real estate and, multifamily syndications, self-storage, all of these asset classes, for so long, it was just not even a possibility. It wasn't even in my realm of thinking, because that was just for those guys out there that are crushing it. And, that's not something I could ever do. And so, I mean, Napoleon Hill calls it the definitive, purpose of really just making up your mind and making that decision to, we're going to make it happen, and whatever it takes, whatever training we need, whatever. Once that decision was made once my wife and I made that decision, things just started falling into place. And I mean, you're still pushing through all those levels of fear and uncertainty. And, I don't know, what we're doing, and trying to figure things out, and just, networking, meeting folks. But I think just opening your mind to the possibility that if other people are doing it, then you can do it. You can, just as you take those steps and take action, the dominoes fall into place.
Wonderful. Andrew, I've enjoyed it today. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing with us your journey thus far. I look forward to keeping track of you and seeing where the next few years take you. So this has been a blast. Thanks for sharing with us today. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn or go to our website. It's www.selfstoragestewardship.com. And you can shoot me an email or reach out. I'd love to connect to your listeners.
Wonderful. We'll make sure we put that information in the show notes as well. Andrew, thanks again for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.